You're watching The Ready Writer, a show where I get to speak to writers of all different genres, mediums, and experiences. The Ready Writer. Are you ready? Hi, and welcome to another episode of The Ready Writer. I am your host, Casey Bell, and today's guest is Susan Laubach. Let's get this show started. Look, when did you when did you first start realizing that you wanted to be a writer, or when did you start writing, just writing in general? When did that first come about for you?
I was 8 years old, but and I had contributed something to the Detroit News, and they printed it, and I was so thrilled, and got it into my head that that's what I wanted to do. But I did a number of other things, which you're able to do when you're writing. And but I really started seriously writing when I was in my 20s, I would say.
That's amazing. So you said at 8, you contributed an article to a newspaper and they used it?
Listen, I have no idea what it was, but it was one of these things where, they had asked little kids from the third grade to write about, I don't know, something, their dog or something like that. And they accepted it. That's all I needed.
That's amazing. I like that story. So when did you decide to write your actual book that you've written, and why?
Right. Well, I've written some other books. The reason I wanted to write this, Casey, is because I'm really convinced that there are certain things prospective investors and investors who are currently investing should know before they do anything else. There are certain, I call them rules, but they are just sensible things to think about before you invest. And I realize that it really stays in people's heads longer if you embed these things in a story. And if it's in a story that, is kind of funny and silly, they probably will keep reading, which was why I chose to put them into fairy tales.
I like that idea. So being that this wasn't your first book, going back to your first book, what steps did you take did you know what you were doing, or did you just figure it out as you went along?
I clearly did not know what I was doing, but my children were little, and I went to the library to get them good books that I thought would, be illuminating. And there was nothing in that library that I thought was anything but just dumb. So I thought I would write a book about history, and I chose Eric the Red because my grandmother comes from Norway, and so did Eric. So I wrote that book, and then I asked a friend of mine who was an artist if she would do the pictures, which she did, and we made up this little dummy book. And then my husband took it around to places. Nobody wanted it. It was the 16th place we took it that finally published it. And they published it and said, you really should never be submitting something that's already made into a book. That nobody even looks at that. No publishing house uses your artist, but they chose to use my artist because she was so good.
Right.
So, but that's, as you say, did I know anything? No, I knew nothing, but I learned.
So what was something during your publishing process, even now, what are some one or two things you've learned that you had no clue you needed to know during the publishing?
Well, one thing nowadays, some previous books I've written, the book tours and marketing has been done by the publisher. Nowadays, you pretty much do your own. I have a wonderful publisher, and he has a publicist, a marketer, and that's really, and that's how we got in touch with you, of course. But it's something that even the most established writers should realize now, that marketing has changed. You really have to do it yourself. And that's, that's an important thing to realize.
Now you've touched bases on it a little bit. Can you just a little bit more details? What is the title of the book, and generally what is it about?
Yes. The book is I'm sorry, my dog is eating something. Rumpelstiltskin's rules for making your farthings grow. And it's, 6 rules, and they're on the back, but they're also in the fairy tales.
Awesome. So what advice would you give an aspiring author on becoming an author?
Well, from my first experience, where we had to go to 16 different publishers, I don't even know why we kept at it. It was just, getting to be something to do. I would say keep at it. The other thing is and I didn't do this, I would go to bookstores or online and find out what publishing houses are doing work similar to yours that might be amenable to looking at another manuscript that's sort of, up their alley, so to speak.
Thank you so much for stopping on by and watching another episode of The Ready Writer. I want to thank our guest, Susan Laubach, for stopping on by and sharing with us. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Rumpelstiltskin's Rules for Making Your Farthings Grow by Susan Laubach is a guide to basic rules for investing told in 7 whimsical yet informative fairy tales. It's for all ages and includes a study guide. For details, go to susanlaubach.com.